Talk to him.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode.
Yo, it's Classic with the classic codes. Got another reaction today. Hey, but before I get started, you know what I need you to do. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. As I go along, make sure you drop a comment. Whether you agree or disagree, let's have a conversation. We got to crack these codes, man. But we heading over to one of my favorites, so I'm hella excited, man. Y'all can see I'm hella excited. We heading over to one of my favorites, man. We finna go do a reaction and join the conversation with Rivah TV. She going over the recent Damion Wayans interview. So we're gonna tap in. I haven't seen Damon's take on or his interview, and I haven't seen Rivah's coverage of the interview, obviously. And so this is gonna be an authentic take, man. Other than that, I ain't gonna waste no time. Y'all know how I get. Let's get right to it. There we go.
Married from since 1984 or something like that. So I didn't. Damn, you ain't get a chance to enjoy the single life. You stand up. I broke up my marriage, and I regret it.
A lot of these men, the relationship can be over because it's a man's fault, because it's a woman's fault, and he doesn't care because all he feels is freedom.
Ooh.
What's up, guys?
This
is Rivah, and I'm back again with another video. So this man on the screen clearly does not need any introduction. Okay, we are all aware that this is the beloved Damion Wayans. He actually was most recently on Club Shay Shay, in which he was asked a lot of various questions. But most importantly, I wanted to focus on this portion of the interview.
Married from since 1984 or something like that. So I didn't. Damn, you ain't get a chance to enjoy the single life. You stand up. I broke up my marriage. Don't worry, I broke up my marriage.
Now, this clip has been going extremely viral. It was Shannon Sharp asking Damion Wayans, like, hey, he was talking about his life and, marriage and stuff like that. And he's like, basically at the height of your career, you were married. And so you weren't out there, you weren't in the streets, you didn't get a lot of experience out there while you were, a high value man with the opportunity to exercise options. And Damion is like, oh, don't worry about that. I broke up my marriage. And then he further goes into detail and says a lot of things that were very interesting to me.
Yeah. And I regret it. Really? Yeah, because in show business, you think that this chemistry you got with this person, this actress, is like special and pure, and then what you don't realize is she gonna go do that on the next role with somebody else.
Now, this portion is what got me, right? And I know a lot of people were focused on the forefront of him saying, that he regrets his marriage, whatever the case is. But you see, this level of accountability is the reason in which men and women maneuver very differently within relationships. Because you know why? When women are the ones who break up their marriage, thinking that the grass is greener, thinking that they're going to have better options, going out there and basically having the same exact situation happen where, maybe the person that they were entertaining while they were married, they thought it was going to create this, amazing situation for them, and it didn't happen. And, they end up, breaking up their marriage and regretting it. They never lead with accountability. That never happens. They never have, it's very rare. And I've highlighted a couple of people on my platform who have said it, but it's very rare that women will go out there and then realize, oh, wait a minute, I made a mistake, and hone in on, all of the onus being on them.
Yeah, I would like to add to that, Rivah, because I agree with you. I think that it also, to take it a step further, I think that it also plays into the fact that men are right when we say that women are not naturally designed for the level of promiscuity that they're participating in these days, right? Because the emotional setup of a man and the emotional setup of a woman, and also the logical thinking of a man versus the emotional irrationality of a woman naturally, right? It doesn't behoove a woman to jump around with multiple people. It makes them emotionally compromised, traumatized, and then ultimately they end up being a person who consistently gets in their own way. If you add trauma, if you add being compromised, and you add in the fact that you're not big on self-accountability, you'll never end up winning. And that's why we're seeing the first wave of women turning 60 and 70, and they realizing, you know what, it would have been nice to just settle down with one of those many gentlemen that I've given myself to over these years, because this getting old alone thing sucks balls.
A lot of women won't do it. Right. And so there was a lot of women in a lot of these comment sections like, oh, him being accountable is amazing. And, we need more men like this. But in my personal, taking a step back was like, what would a world be if women were the ones taking that accountability? Because a lot of people believe that just because the women are filing for divorce, that they are not the cause for the demise of their relationship. And that is actually not true. The fact that he's like, you know what? It was my fault. I regret it. I thought that this person was, the cream of the crop. I thought that the interest that this person had in me was going to be whatever the situation was. And unfortunately, that's not how the cookie crumbled.
And you're like, but I left my wife for you. You know what? Tell her the stuff you told my character. She'll take you back. You'd be like, wait, what? Yeah.
What do you learn about marriage? What do you learn about yourself? You're married.
It's cheaper to keep her.
Obviously, we know that Damion Wayans is a comedian, so a lot of these serious conversations end up turning into a joke, just like this one. And I wanted to pinpoint something. You see, when a man can be out of a relationship with a woman, okay, as much as, like I said, a lot of these women are caught up in him being accountable, and you see, this is what these men need to take notes, because these men need to be accountable for their actions. As much as these women are caught up in the act of, the onus being on a man, do you understand the kind of woman you have to be for a man to no longer be in a relationship with you? That ship has sailed. The two of you are over, and him to look back at you and say, you know what? I regret that decision. That means that you have to be a certain type of woman. A lot of these men, the relationship can be over because it's a man's fault, because it's a woman's fault, and he doesn't care because all he feels is freedom. Okay?
Hey, she ain't lying. Hey, she ain't lying. She ain't lying. Whoo! Hey, River, you just said some shit, baby. You ain't lying. Hey, listen, I definitely been there. I have been there. Hey, tell whoever, whatever, just get away from me. I'm so happy it's over. Tell whoever, whatever, I don't care. Tell everybody it was me. I don't tell them it was me. It wasn't, but tell them it was me. I don't give a damn. I'm just great. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God. You hear me?
Is not feeling any sense of regret, any sense of remorse, any feeling towards a lot of these women, because a lot of times these women make being in the relationship with them so heavy.
Man.
Right?
God damn
so
it.
Dramatic.
Hey. Heavy as, you hear me? The burden. Let my burden down.
So, filled with toxicity, drama, disrespect on a constant basis, that when these men step out of these relationships, regardless of it's his fault, her fault, anybody's fault in between, they do not feel that sense of regret. They don't feel it.
Telling you, ain't lost nothing that should have stayed. River tapped in. That's how I know River got a man, for sure. You don't understand us to this level, and somebody ain't trying to take that off the market for sure. That's why I always just, River, she one of my favorites, man. I could listen to her all day, but she gets it, man. Like, she just gets it. And then she the type of chick where she understand men so well. If you was, and this off the subject of Damion, but if River's the type of chick where if she understand men so well, like, you get her, and if you got some sense about you, you wouldn't even want to disrespect nothing. All that the other little cute little joint over there and the other little cute joint over there, you wouldn't even want to disrespect nothing. You would just chill. Because she gonna make it easy for you. So why tweak? You know what I'm saying?
So as much as, like I said, the women are focused on, him regretting it, they need to be focused on the type of woman that is. Because a lot of men that y'all done broke up with, you want them to take accountability for what? Okay? They are happy that they have pounced into freedom and away from you.
Marriage is a beautiful arrangement. I was just too young and dumb to know that back then.
Are you on good terms?
Yeah.
You can always tell when somebody's speaking from a mature point of view because there's no bitterness. Right? There's no bitterness. There's no disdain. There's no, pent up feelings or hard feelings. Although he did, talk about the fact that they obviously had to work through things. But, he doesn't have any disdain for marriage or the constitution of marriage or what marriage represents or the balance of it. But he, again, had no problem being accountable for the fact that, like, you know what? I was too young. I shouldn't have done it. Made a mistake. Didn't understand what I was doing. Walked into that situation. Is what it is. Right? But he's owning, like, I'm the one who messed this up. He's owning that. And while women look at that with admiration, a lot of women, while they're saying, like, oh, men need to learn from this, don't realize that they themselves need to learn from this situation.
Hey, she cooking today, man. When I disagree with content creators, because unlike most reaction channels, I like to react to the reactions, right? So I join conversations with people who I like their coverage of, not necessarily who I always disagree with, but people whose coverage that I like, right? And when I disagree, I'll say, like, hey, I don't all the way agree, or I don't think the same about this, or whatever the case may be. But right now, she cooking with hot grease, man. She really is. Grapeseed oil, of course.
They themselves need to learn, you know what? Not because the relationship is over, I need to now villainize this person and make it seem like he's the worst person that has ever existed, or he's the worst guy in the world. The relationship didn't work. It is what it is. Move forward. You don't have to be bitter. You don't have to be vindictive. You don't have to walk around trying to slander that person's name, because, you know, so many times women get out of relationships and according to them, they were the victim. The person was so horrible and terrible. And in every relationship they've ever been in, they've been the best thing since sliced bread, and they've never done anything wrong. It's not real.
Single and perfect. They be single and perfect, don't they, baby? Single and perfect. Single and perfect. Nobody wants you. Nobody with you. Nobody stayed. You the one that left. Whatever your story is, you have arrived at single and perfect. No red flags with you. Single and perfect. That's what they selling. And we supposed to buy it. You can put that shit on clearance. I ain't buying that bullshit. That's bullshit.
Reality. That's not the truth. Right? We know that it was you. Maybe you had a problem with, you know, one person who was the problem, and then you made every other person that you got into a relationship with suffer for your lack of trust or whatever it was from the first person that you encountered a relationship with.
Ooh.
A lot of times the problem was you.
Damn.
Okay, so while you over here pointing the finger at everybody else and being in a space that you were unwilling to change and grow or evolve through these situations, you're blaming everyone else. Again, I have to say it again. While y'all over here telling the men that they need to be taking note, a lot of women need to take note from this situation as well, because again, a lot of these women are filing thinking that the grass is greener. And I got to be honest with you. Damion Wayans, I don't even know how old Damion Wayans is, but I can guarantee he can go get in a relationship and snap his fingers and be married if he wants to. For a lot of times, you know, with a woman, when a woman gets older and a woman's in a different space, it doesn't work the same way.
Here's what's crazy is, you know, for the longest, like she and I would, you know, we never said it to each other, but we just made up our minds that we can't let the grandkids feel our resentment. And there was resentment, you know.
I loved when he said this. I absolutely loved when he said this. And again, you know, this is a platform in which I hold women accountable. Okay, that is what my conversation is based in, holding women accountable so that women can have better results, so that women can get better relationships, so that women can fix the relationships that they're in before they end up single, bitter, miserable, and again playing the blame game. What he said about, you know, the resentment and how, you know, the two of them harbored resentment against one another. A lot of people don't realize that, especially when you are in these spaces and you are harboring resentment against your ex for whatever reason. Your lack of understanding, your lack of wanting to understand the other person's point of view, which in a lot of women have that issue. Hence why a lot of women end up single, is because of the fact that they are unable to understand their counterpart's point of view in the first place. But when you are harboring that unwillingness to have certain conversations, or that resentment, that bitterness within yourself, you are only stagnating your own growth. You are.
Hey, now here's a part where I disagree. Me being a person who's not very forgiving, I'm not a really forgiving person. So I can't say like I don't harbor resentment for anybody. But what I will say is, when it comes to exes, though, in particular, you could call it forgiveness by definition, but I don't really be harboring resentment. Like when you finally get past like the smoke and mirrors that you're being overly emotional provide, when you finally get past that, and you start looking at everything for what it is, you just realize, like, you know, rejection can be protection, or whatever the cliche is, or that, you know, in some way, shape, or form, you really dodged the bullet, right? For whatever reason, even if it's just incompatibility, it doesn't mean that your ex got to be a horrible person or none of that. It could just be you dodged the bullet because you was going to walk down a long-term road with somebody who you're incompatible with. And that could just be wasted time, right? So, I will say, when it comes to relationships in particular, yes, like I don't harbor any resentment. But when it comes to like being double crossed, backstab, disloyal friends, stuff like that, that resentment don't go away. And I don't think it holds you up in any way, shape, or form, because anything that you use, anything that you feel, you can weaponize, right? So if you harbor resentment, you could take that resentment to the gym with you every day. You could take that resentment to work with you every day, and then make you grind hard as ever, because success oftentimes is the greatest get back. Success oftentimes is the sweetest revenge, you know what I mean? Or just the sweetest feeling in the world, to just, you know, let everybody that passed on you, everybody that played wrong with you, everybody that tried you, have to look up at you, you know, to a degree. And success don't have to necessarily be monetary, but whatever it means to you. So I'm just saying that I see what she's talking about in a couple of different ways. So I just wanted to add that nuance.
You're only halting your own growth. You might think it's affecting everybody else. It's only affecting you. No one else. And especially in his situation where there's not only kids involved, but there's grandchildren involved. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. For what? And I love the part where he actually is going to say that the reason why is because he didn't want to rehash things.
She'd come in and sit over there, and I'd sit over there. And then probably about 7 years ago, I was over at Junior's house, family gathering, because their kids would invite her to barbecues at my house, and it's fine, And what it was is the fear of having to relitigate what happened.
Can we be honest that a lot of times when these women file for divorce and they regret it, or they realize that they didn't actually think things through, or the relationship is over and they're out there in the streets and things are not going the way in which they thought it was going to go, a lot of that is because of their pent up emotions to the situation, and again, their unwillingness to be honest with themselves. Right? Like this whole not wanting to rehash or bring up these old things is not even something that you necessarily even have to have a conversation about. But a lot of these women they'd rather fill their mind with the delusions and lie to themselves about how they truly feel about the situation, because, everybody sold them the dream that the grass is greener. Everybody sold them the dream that they're going to be happier if they divorce and break up their families. Everybody sold them the dream that, out here not having no man living with you and stressing you out is, where you need to be at in life. And they're actually not happy with that. Right? And so these unresolved feelings or emotions of not wanting to rehash the fact that, yeah, you made the wrong decision. And so that's why we see a lot of these women join the campaigns on TikTok and social media and all these places, basically telling other women like, oh, you don't need to be with nobody, and, you're going to be happier if you're by yourself, and you don't need nobody's son stressing you out, and I'm so happy to live the single life. It's because they are coping. Not realizing that all they had to do was be honest with themselves, which is something that a lot of women suffer with, is being honest with themselves.
Yeah, and I agree. Listen, first step to getting some results is just being all the way real with yourself. I tell people all the time, lie to whoever you want, just don't lie to yourself. Lie to everybody. Lie to the world. Go outside, tell people you got confidence when your confidence ain't all the way right. Fake how you feel about yourself when you having a bunch of fucked up days in a row, but keep it real with yourself, because if you're keeping it real with yourself and you actually do want the results, then your actions gonna rock that way. And sometimes getting results require a lot of shadow work. So you could be working on yourself in the background and faking the funk in the front, so people don't know what you're doing, what you're dealing with. And by the time they realize you lacked confidence, you got confidence. You know what I'm saying? So being honest with yourself only has pros to it and no cons. I mean, you could call one con is, oh, you're going to feel emotionally sad because some of the truths you have to face don't feel awesome to deal with. So fucking what? You want results or you don't want results? Sorry for adding the vulgarity to Riva's coverage, but this the classic codes.
Even when it's going to expose the fact that you are wrong about a situation.
I know I messed up. I messed up. So I don't want to deal. That's why I pay you alimony, so I don't have to deal with it. Right? 7 years ago, we were at Junior's house and we're sitting outside, and she's over there somewhere, and we're laughing. That's what we do, is laugh and joke, and we start reminiscing. And then she came and sat right next to me.
What a lot of women don't realize is that the way that you are able to be amicable, especially when you're going through a divorce with your children's father, right? Or, separation, whatever, is that how you handle the way that you maneuvered from your ex, and even women who don't have children, how you handle the way that you are able to maneuver from your ex is going to determine the types of relationships that you are able to get into. And a lot of women have not figured out that math. Okay. They have not figured out the calculations of the two, because the two of them definitely coexist. Because if you are able to understand the other's perspective, if you are able to not harbor resentment, if you are able to grow from the situation and look at self. A lot of women break up out of relationships and all they do is point the finger at the other person. But if you are able to look at yourself and say, okay, what did I do in that situation that I don't want to do moving forward? What can I take accountability for the demise of that relationship? Focus on you, how you can grow, how you can evolve, how you can change. Because I can guarantee, okay, that if you look into some things, you definitely had a part to play in that situation. You did. It takes two to tango. Okay,
all day long.
Sitting there all perfect and refined and did nothing wrong and didn't nag him and didn't annoy him, didn't disrespect him, and you were just the best, the prize in the relationship, and that man just decided that it was over. That's not what happened.
No, hell no, I didn't go like that. And that's why I always be saying, like, when I get a chance to have conversations with women about their exes, and then they get to telling these one-sided ass stories, and there's no self-accountability laced into the conversation that they're having or the commentary that they're having about these gentlemen, I always say I would like to hear from the gentleman. I'd like to hear his side. I'm not saying I'm call your ex. I'm just saying that be my energy. Like, I would like to hear his side, because again, like I said in previous videos, women like for shit to sound a certain way. And in order for things to sound a certain way, they will disregard how true it is. You see, but that don't mean they don't know the truth on the inside. They just never gonna say that shit outside because it gotta sound a certain way. You know? So that's a hurdle that a woman who wants to transition into being a wife gotta jump. She gotta jump that hurdle. The looking in the mirror and being real with yourself, gotta jump that hurdle.
Okay, he didn't just wake up one day and say, "I'm gonna ruin everything." That's not what happened. I can guarantee that there are some parts to play, and again, some pieces that you added to the demise of the relationship. And again, a lot of women focus on the other party, not realizing that when you focus on yourself and you truly grow, truly evolve, truly fix, heal, change, rearrange whatever wrongs you have in you, you are also going to be able to then garner positive results after. But a lot of these women walk around with bitterness, resentment, hurt, pain, disdain, unsaid words, and regret. And so they're still living like they're in a relationship with the man because they never resolved those things. They can move on. They could be with somebody new. They could be in a new relationship, whatever it is, but they are harboring all of these old feelings. And so it's keeping them in that same relationship mentally and emotionally. So how can you move forward? You go get in a relationship, with a new man, you start dating a new man and you start talking to him and stuff, and you like, well, yeah, I'm a good woman and I'm this and I bring that to the table. The man goes to take a phone call outside. You over here about to bite his head off because of what your ex did. You're in a new relationship.
Yeah, putting parameters on the man, built around the traumas of the last man or the man before that man, right? All that type shit. I feel what she's saying.
Something happening between the two of y'all in the house, and you talking about, oh, well, I don't like that because my ex used to do. Why are you still there? You need to deal with them unresolved things and then move forward. Because if not, you're going to end up dating the same man who just looks different. Because the only person that's going to be able to give you the time of day is the person who has the same toxic traits that you were unable to heal from, grow from, learn from.
Woo.
I loved this conversation. I actually loved the entire interview. There was a lot of gems that he dropped in the entire interview. Very funny and stuff like that. But in between the nonsensical things that they were just talking and laughing about, there was a lot of important things that he said, and I love that.
Facts. I loved it too. Let me tap in. Let me lock in. Yeah, I loved it too. This was a great conversation, and I'm glad that I decided to join Rivah's coverage of it because she made a lot of great points that I wouldn't have made, but she also allowed me to elaborate and expound on some of the points she made with some different nuances and textures to it. So I hope y'all took a lot from this conversation. I hope this conversation stimulates more conversation because we got to crack these codes, man. We got to get the Black family back on track. You know what I mean? Put that back together. And I think once that's in position, by and large, the children and the next generation that's gonna have to take care of everything, they all gonna be in a better mental state, a better position to run the country, because that's how it goes, right? So we got to make sure that we got some family structure back in place and got some stuff in order so that the generations to come can show promise. You know what I mean? So I'm talking like I'm hella old and shit like that, but nah, just real talk though. But if y'all don't do nothing else, man, make sure y'all stick to the codes. Yeah.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Weathered the winters when left in the cold. Harden my heart and now harden the flow. They don't